In Ecuador, authorities report new prison riots while 6 people are under arrest after the detonation of car bombs in Quito. In Türkiye's foreign minister said his country supports Russia's demands for uninterrupted export of its grain and fertilizer for surviving the Black Sea grain. And in South Africa, more than 70 people died after a fire in a building in downtown Johannesburg. President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the site of the deadly fire. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, the National Police and the Armed Forces carried out control operations in the Cotopaxi prison within the framework of the state of emergency decreed in July. Around 1,800 police and military personnel took part in the operation with the objective of carrying out the control of arms, ammunition, explosive, and prohibited articles. Authorities pointed out that this would be the 6th operation carried out in the country's prisons to avoid violent acts. In the same line, they indicated that they continue working against crime and violence for the security of the population. In this context, more than 20 penitentiary guards and 10 police officers were detained in the Turi prison located in Cotopaxi. The information was released by the National Service of Integral Attention to Adults Deprived of Liberty and Adolescent Offenders, stating that in this prison, police officers and guides were intercepted by the inmates in retaliation for the operation carried out in the Cotopaxi prison. For their part, authorities indicate that the security forces are still deprived of liberty by the inmates. Moreover, police officers held hostage in the Ecuadorian prison and the government of Faso not to take measures that go against the human rights of those deprived of liberty.
I am Lieutenant Alonso Quintana. This message is to tell you not to take decisions that threaten human rights of those deprived of liberty. At the moment, we are detained in the different centers of deprivation of liberty at national level to police personnel and personnel of the CEPOL unit. These decisions should not be taken suddenly, as it threatens the lives of people.
At the same time, a fire broke out at the Virgilio Guerrero Penitentiary for juvenile offenders in Quito, leaving 4 people injured. Authorities say that they do not know the causes that started the fire and are waiting for the site to cool down, where 85 people were being held at the time. Finally, he pointed out that the investigations will continue as soon as the site can be re-entered after being 80% consumed. In Ecuador, several explosions were registered in the center of Quito. The police confirmed that it was a car bomb attack. A car was set on fire and at least 4 shots were heard in a commercial area of the capital. 6 people were arrested, among them 4 Ecuadorians and Colombian, for their presumed connection with the explosion of the vehicle, which caused no victims. Police had initially indicated that the detonations were due to a fire, but Police General Pablo Ramirez confirmed that upon searching the vehicle, agents found 2 gas cylinders, a slow fuse, and apparently dynamite sticks inside. Bolivian President Luis Arce said on Wednesday that his country faces a drop in the gas production, its main source of income, because it stopped exploring and replenishing its reserves for a decade. According to official data from the state-owned oil company YPFB, the gas production has fallen 37% from 59 to 37 million cubic meters per day this year. The official source details that 81% of the country's total gas production is purchased by Argentina, Brazil, making Bolivia one of the main exporters of the fuel in Latin America. The state-owned YPFB announced an investment of $669 million in the sector this year, together with private companies, of which almost half will go to exploration in search of new reserves. During the administration of former President Evo Morales, Bolivia nationalized its natural gas reserves, then in the hands of a dozen Spanish, English, Brazilian, British, and Argentine companies. In a new episode of Venezuela on the Move, we travel to Guarenas, a community east of Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, where a family found a new source of income in goat breeding during the stall brought on by COVID-19. After what seemed to be a crazy adventure and temporal activity became their livelihood and motivation, our colleagues Adriana Sivori and Jesus Romero went to their farm in the mountains and got their story for us. Let's listen.
The workday begins at dawn. Every day, this couple milks these goats who they consider to be part of their family, from which they can obtain 300 liters of milk per season.
For me, they are women with 4 legs, because everything is the same. The breastfeeding process, the birthing process, everything.
Goat milk is the most similar to maternal milk. It has vitamins, less fat, and is more digestible. They sell their production, but they accept sacrifice.
For us to give away an animal is hard. As a business, we have to give them away because we cannot overcrowd our barns. But it's difficult. We try to find people who take good care of animals, and we give them recommendations. They are not animals that can be grazed and fed. They are animals of high dairy genetics.
They used to sleep in the barns, but now they have installed cameras in the birthing area so they can control the goats when they're not there. This way, they can see what is happening on their device. Victor is their assistant.
My thing is to work. This way I earn more money, and I can provide for my family.
The goats walk daily through these hills. There are 75 of them, and they receive complete care, vaccines every 3 months, and strict sanitary control. These 25 little goats do not lack supervision or feeding bottles. They started with 2 goats to clean the land, and that turned to a passion and made them stay in the country.
First of all, it's the peace of mind that I have. My daughters are still small and they are still studying. This enterprise has helped me economically because my husband had a transportation company. But when the pandemic started, construction was paralyzed. And since we were at home, I told my family to come and help me with the work, and we all started to make the farm grow. This was a window to the future. People told me that I was crazy, and I told them that I would have a good herd. And well, here I am, producing.
In 6 years, this farm has managed to even produce French cheeses, which they sell to gastronomic establishments in the capital. Its next step is to become more technological.
Adriana Sivori, Jesus Romero, Guarenas, Venezuela.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The Brazilian Army is trying to build a sergeant's training school inside one of the nation's most important environmental protection areas. In Recife, our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
Once the world's second largest rainforest, the Atlantic rainforest is one of Brazil's most environmentally degraded biomes, with less than 15% of its original forest cover remaining. In Pernambuco, citizens are fighting the Brazilian Army's plans to build a sergeant's training school inside of the Aldeia Forest Preserve, which is the largest tract of Atlantic rainforest left north of Bahia.
It is Atlantic rainforest, people. It is not a small deal. It is a reserve. Look at the name. We shouldn't even need reserves. We should worry about this because all we have left are fragments of the Atlantic rainforest, and they want to destroy what little is left.
According to an environmental impact study conducted by researchers from Pernambuco's Federal Rural University, the project, which includes roads, 5-story apartment buildings, training fields, and school buildings, will result in cutting down over 200,000 old-growth trees and severely impact the water supply for over 1 million people living in the greater Recife area.
The project takes up 150 hectares. We have produced a study showing 900 hectares available for the army nearby. of which nearly 200 hectares of deforested land are available on the Army's own property. So it would be easy to build this sergeant school in Pernambuco without cutting down a single tree.
Activists hope that if enough popular pressure is built up, the army will change its mind about the school location. Brian Mir, teleSUR, Recife.
On Thursday, UN Secretary General confirmed his participation in the next summit of the G77 and China to be held in Havana on September 15 and the 16th. In statements to the press, the head of the United Nations said that he will call on the meeting to use science and technology for good and to ensure that multilateralism benefits all countries. Guterres added that the summit will serve to put the 2030 agenda goals back on track. He will arrive in the Cuban capital as the last stop after participating in the African Climate Summit to be held in Kenya, the Asian UN meeting to be held in Indonesia, and the G20 summit organized by India. The G77 and China, a negotiating bloc of developing countries, is shared for the first time by Cuba with the aim of promoting Southern unity in the face of present and future challenges. Turkey's foreign minister Hakan Fidan said his country supports Russia's demands for uninterrupted export of its grain and fertilizer, calling this an appropriate basis for reviving Black Sea grain deal. During a two-day visit to Moscow, the top Turkish diplomat affirmed that the initiative would bring back stability in both global food security and the Black Sea region. On the other hand, his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov told reporters that his country is preparing to deliver up to 1 million tons of grain to Turkey at reduced prices. Fidan's visit sets the stage for an informal summit between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia's Black Sea resort city of Sochi, expected for the first week of September.
I reiterated our belief that the revival of the initiative will bring back stability in both areas. Russia has demands for the uninterrupted export of its grains and fertilizer. We reaffirmed the importance of meeting these demands. Thanks to our country's efforts and contributions, the United Nations has prepared a new package of proposals. We believe that this is an appropriate basis for revitalizing the initiative.
For his part, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov confirmed Russia's commitment to all agreements and explained why it is impossible to rely on President Volodymyr Zelensky's efforts to mediate a peace deal.
For our part, we confirmed Russia's commitment to all agreements on increasing natural gas exports, including through the implementation of the initiative by our heads of state to create a unified gas distribution hub in Turkey. We explained why it is impossible to rely on any efforts that are made in this direction, and that with these efforts, they are trying to undermine any serious conversation about how to ensure equal indivisible security that will prevent conflict on European territory.
Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi affirmed the world is moving towards a new order that seeks to confront imperialism. The Iranian leader said that the world power sees the unity in the Muslim world as an obstacle to their own interests. He also said that global arrogance has prevented Muslim progress by establishing terrorist groups to generate violence. Raisi stressed the importance of regional and international blocs and the role of the BRICS group in confronting hegemonic unilateralism. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found a short break? Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa visited the site of a deadly apartment block fire in which more than 70 people, including 12 children, were killed overnight. South African authorities said the five-story building was used for illegal housing. An additional 61 people were injured and treated in a hospital in one of the deadliest fires worldwide in recent years. An official said that bodies were discovered piled up at a security gate that was closed, preventing people from escaping the blaze.
And early in the morning, I heard about this tragic event. We are very saddened as government about the passing of so many people here in Johannesburg. This is unprecedented. Johannesburg has never had an incident like this where so many people die as a result of fire in the center of the city. So this is tragic. We've got to go to the bottom of what caused this fire and also address from now on. It's a wake-up call for us to begin to address the situation of housing in the inner city. And we need to get on top of this and find effective ways of dealing with problems of accommodation, of housing, and services in the inner city.
In Gabon, the appointed president of the Committee for the Transition and Reconstruction of Institutions, General Brice Oligui Nguema, said he will respect all the obligations assumed by the state. Oligui temporarily reinstated the Constitutional Court in order to gradually create state institutions in harmony with the new government. He also said on national television that he will guarantee all investors, development partners, and the country's creditors the fulfillment of the commitments assumed. The leader of Gabon will be sworn in next September 4th, following the coup d'etat that disregarded the results of the presidential election. In this context, Gabon's main opposition candidate, Albert Ondo Osa, denounced a palace revolution in the wake of the military coup to overthrow President Ali Bongo Ondimba.
We need to put things into context. First of all, it is not a coup d'etat, it is a palace revolution. Oligui Nguema is Ali Bongo's cousin. The campaign was 60 years of Bongo is too much. The Bongos found it necessary to put Ali Bongo aside and to effectively continue the plus Bongo PDG plus system. They put Oligui Nguema forward. We know who's behind Oligui Nguema. The Bongo system continues.
Amidst the political tension in Gabon, let's review some facts about the African country.
Gabon is one of the richest countries in sub-Saharan Africa in terms of per capita GDP in 2022. It has oil, timber, and manganese as natural resources with a population of 2.3 million. It is the world's third largest producer of manganese, accounting for some 2.8 million tons in 2020 alone. As an OPEC member, it is the seventh largest crude oil producer in the continent, with an average of almost 200,000 barrels of oil per day. Today, the French company Eramet, which controls most of the manganese mines in Gabon, makes France the second largest supplier of manganese in Europe and the fifth largest in the world. The volume of agricultural production is insufficient to meet domestic demand, so about 60% of food is imported. Despite its natural wealth, 45% of the population lives below the poverty line and unemployment exceeds 40%, aggravated by limited access to essential public services, deficits in food production, health care, clean water, and electricity.
The chairman of Sudan's Transitional Sovereign Council and General Commander of the Sudanese Armed Forces, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, warned on Thursday that the war may lead to the country's fragmentation if not resolved. Al-Burhan made remarks when addressing the Sudanese police leaders in Port Sudan, the capital city of the Red Sea state in eastern Sudan. The general commander of the SAF stressed his forces' ability to end the war and called on the citizens to prepare for post-war arrangements. At the same time, Al-Burhan urged the fighters of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces to surrender their weapons. The Sudanese army chief further disclosed that the RSF had committed war crimes in Darfur and Khartoum and stressed the need to hold those responsible to account. Sudan has been witnessing deadly armed clashes between the SAF and the RSF in Khartoum and other areas since April 15th, with over 3,000 people killed and more than 6,000 injured.
The Sudanese state is steadfast, but there are those who are seeking to undermine it. We're now witnessing evidence of racism, regionalism, and tribalism. This is dangerous and threatens Sudan's unity and security. We're all facing a war which might fragment Sudan and damage its national unity unless we put an end to it quickly enough.
We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net, and also join us on social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.